It's really easy to start a company that is just your name, right? Not to pick on the lawyers and the accountants of the world, but it's very easy to throw your name on something and extend your personal brand and build a company around that. And today's guest actually did the exact opposite and was incredibly intentional about their branding and about a name and what it means. Tony C. of VCRE is a real estate company that he did not want to build the traditional way. He wanted his company to be about the community, to be about building something bigger than himself, and bringing people to that company that could then also bring their own personal branding into the mix. And it's such an intentional choice that we talk about as it shapes the company as it moves forward and the adjacent opportunities that the company can then explore. So sit back, enjoy this episode where we talk to Tony about what it's like to take a very charismatic personal brand and go, nope, you know what? We're going to do something a little bit different with that and see where it grows and takes you. This episode is sponsored by Genesis AEC, Steel Toe Communications. And this episode is also sponsored by Illuminate. All right. Well, Tony, I am so excited to have you here. We have known each other for years now, and we've done business together. It's been a wild ride, so welcome to the breakout moment.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you for the invitation. I'm super excited about what you're doing, and I'm happy to be a part of it, and happy to be here today. And how long have we known each other? Longer than we each admitted.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. And congratulations on this breakout moment.
Thank you.
Podcast. This is fun.
Yeah. Well, that's at the end of the day, while we're in business, right? We wanted to have some fun.
Yeah.
I think every entrepreneur feels that way at some point of, I want to have fun.
Do shit you love or don't do it at all, right?
Bingo. I tell everyone the day I wake up, and it hasn't happened yet in 13 years, but the day that I wake up and I don't want to go to work, I'm done. Something's got to change.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've had hard days. I've had days to be like, ugh, I got to deal with this, but I've never had a day where I felt, nope, I don't want to do this anymore.
I can agree with that. And also there are times when the work becomes work and it's challenging, but I just feel blessed that I've found something by accident that was not my game plan. Coming out of college, I was going to go to law school. I don't know if you know this story or not. I think I've told you this story.
Yeah.
And then, got my real estate license as a backup plan. And, Sister Dr. Mary Nussbaum, my economics professor / advisor, says to me, don't be so hard on yourself. You can get to law school. Maybe someday this real estate thing might work out. You might be the owner of your company someday. And I'm like, prophetic, right?
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
And here I am, almost 40 years later. And, still doing it. Love it.
I do too. Yeah. I absolutely love it. I think it's interesting. I don't know about you, but like for you, that was the backup plan. For me, I was just in denial for too long. Like I kept having friction in my jobs because, I wanted to go off script. I wanted to go do this or I want to go chase that. Everyone, at Illuminate knows I always tell people, like, I like to run into burning buildings. And in corporate, they don't like you to run into burning buildings, usually unless you're a firefighter. And obviously, I wouldn't make the cut.
Right.
But I just was in denial for so long. And then I finally, just out of necessity, after being told no so many times, no, you can't have that. No, you can't. I was like, well, screw you.
Mine was about 2 years of denial. So, right, coming out of college, parents had invested in me to get a college degree and, aspirations to go to law school, and got a real estate license as a backup plan just so I'd have something to do after graduating. Started working in real estate, but felt that I had settled. And it was, like, why did I go to college just to be a realtor? Like, this was such a waste kind of attitude, really arrogant, young and arrogant, and, thought way more of myself than I probably should have at that time. But I had a transaction, that involved interaction with a local real estate attorney, and experienced that transaction, experiencing what that attorney brought to that transaction, the friction, the tension, his whole disposition was very one-sided. He was representing the buyer, and he was advocating only for the buyer. And as brokers, we're bringing parties together. We're solving problems. We're resolving issues. We're making the transaction come together. And he just kept fighting me the whole time. And I had that aha moment. I was like, that's not my DNA. Like, what the hell was I thinking going to law school like that? If that's what lawyers do, that's the last thing on earth I want to do. And so it took a while. And then I had the fortunate opportunity of a seasoned broker agent that had been in the business for a while, got in a car accident, was recovering from his injury, invited me to work on a group of investment properties that he was listing, a portfolio at one time. And he was like, "Do you want to help?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. What do you want me to, like, wash your car, like, change your oil? Like, what do you want?" And he's like, "No, work with me on these listings." And so my experience level and my interaction with higher level transactions just jumped, and I was able to work with somebody that, as a mentored me, that gave me that kickstart and accelerated my on-ramp to really get into real estate. And that's when I really started to say, hey, I'm actually really good at this, and I love what I'm doing, and wow, now I'm getting paid too. Like, I get to settlement, everybody's happy, I get paid. I'm like, win, 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 win.
Right,
so,
right.
Things kind of really started to fall in line. But until I got bored and needed to move on, and felt like real estate, early years for me were transactional. And in a residential environment, everything is transaction based, and it's how many transactions can you do, and it's a lot of rinse repeat. It's volume. It's a lot of rinse repeat. I wasn't challenging myself. I wasn't growing. I wasn't learning. So I made a move, and was able to move into a situation where I wanted to principal up. I wanted to become an owner and have something that I could build that I owned. And I had the opportunity to partner with a very experienced broker who was more towards the twilight years. He was closing in on retirement. And I thought this would be a good fit. I could, go in, learn from him, and we would complement each other. And we had a good run. We worked together as partners for almost 18 years.
That's a really good run.
But it wasn't my company, right? So my ideas were always met with, well, that's not, even simple things like the company name was very defined. And I always felt that it really limited the audience of the work that we were doing was general brokerage, not just land. And the company name was land. And I was like, but we're not just a land company. We're doing leasing. We're doing commercial transactions. And we're working on investment properties. And so that was kind of phase 2 of my career path, if you will. And then, the next aha moment for me was the transition from Frederick Land Company to Veritas Commercial Real Estate, which quickly became an acronym because nobody can pronounce Veritas. It's Verita. And so VCRE. VCRE, keep it simple, baby. Was born. And it's we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary in February. And it's me. It's all Tony C. But it's not Tony C. Like, that was the other part of what I wanted to do in forming VCRE was I didn't want it to just be Tony C, or I would have named it after myself.
Yes.
So deliberately named it Veritas Commercial Real Estate. Verità means the truth in Italian. Deliberately chose that word because I had another experience with some other folks that wouldn't know the truth if it bit them in their ass. And so I was like, I'm just going to make that constant reminder. And I also brought in some of the other meaning behind the name. So I've been in Rotary for almost 30 years. Rotary is a big part of my life.
Big part.
The Rotary 4-way test is the truth. So the truth, true, verità, all of that came into that. And honestly, the other part of it was it's hard as hell to find a name for a company. Like, holy shit, like trying to figure out an original name, or even Veritas not original. There's Veritas, and there's other companies that have that name. Finding the name, figuring out the URL, figuring out the all of that was
Illuminate. Yeah,
it was difficult.
The spelling. There's a reason.
Yeah,
it's because the others were not available.
Right.
I know I wanted the 8 because it was an infinity symbol.
Yeah.
And I feel that the same thing, the customer journey is a cycle that feeds itself. So I was very intentional about that. But the spelling came down to domain issues. Like sometimes the inspiration isn't as creative as people think it is. It's more like necessity. Like I have to have something unique.
That was crazy. I remember I reached out to one of my sisters who asked her for advice, and she was the one that initially she's like, well, what about Veritas? I'm like, maybe that could work. And so but yeah, then figured out the rest of it and went through different iterations of we're going to be advisors, we're going to be a brokerage. Ultimately at the end of the day, today it's just VCRE.
Right. But I love that it has. I mean, it's good and bad. If I put on my marketing hat for 2 seconds, having what you do in the name makes it very easy.
Right.
From just people to understand what you do, shortens the education cycle, but it also limits you as well. So if I had kept it as originally when we started out, we were Illuminate Marketing and Public Relations. We don't do public relations anymore.
Right.
And I've taken away the marketing as well because we do other things. We've become much more technical, and it allows the company to change and meet the needs of our customers as it needs to with adjacent opportunities. Same thing for like a VCRE. But I want to go back to something that you said that really resonated with me. When you started the company, you didn't want it to be Tony C. And I really resonate with that because when I started the company, I did not want it to be Christina May. And even though we both are very much the character out front personalities of our firms, everybody knows that.
Right.
But at heart, I wanted it to not just be me. I wanted it to have longevity and legs beyond me and impact beyond me. And I was very intentional about that decision.
Yeah, I struggle with that, Christina, because even to this day, with not a large company, there are 5, of us at VCRE, but I want my associates to have their own identity, their own workflow. We do work as a team, and we also individually work on assignments, and whether it's working with buyers or sellers or whatever. But having grown up in Frederick and only been in real estate in Frederick and have been branded Tony C since 1992, I think. It's a thing, right? And it's what I'm known for and who I am, and
it's your brand. It's your personal brand.
It's my personal brand. I'm not trying to hide from that, but I also recognized, at least I thought, that if I'm going to start a company and I want to invite other associates, realtors, other
people to get on the bus,
to be part of this company, it just felt selfish. It felt selfish. It felt like I was trying to find, and I think I have found that balance between obviously not putting on the shelf who I am because it's important, because a lot of referrals and business comes through the door because of me being there.
People do business with people.
They do people, exactly. But I also it's important that, Justin, Amos, Maria, that they have their own book of business and that they're able to grow, and I'm supporting them, and they have their own autonomy from the Tony C of the company. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with me. I'm the broker, and it's my company. I stand 100% behind it. But that was tough. That was tough to navigate through. And it was also like I never even considered, from a naming aspect, whether it was Tony C or, God forbid, Checchia real estate. Could you imagine?
Oh.
You know, like it was just, that was not even an option.
Nope.
So, and then I also wanted to, and even if I struggled with commercial, so Veritas commercial real estate is primarily what we focus on. However, we're a small boutique firm in Frederick, and we deal with mixed-use properties and historic properties and farms and land, and not everything is commercial. We do have estates and residential properties that we broker. So I've actually had rentals, and I've had property management, and I've had people say, well, you're a commercial company, why would you be listing that? And so there's still some of that I, struggle with. Since we've gone completely to the acronym VCRE, that has not been as much of a factor. And, 80-90% of our workflow is focused on more of the commercial real estate than residential or something that would otherwise not fit under that umbrella. Because like you said earlier, the name does have a meaning. And like when I was at Frederick Land Company, and Frederick Land Company listed a space for lease that was in a shopping center. It's like, why is a land company doing leasing? That felt like a misfit to me. Mm-hmm. My partner didn't feel that way. He always just said, hey, it's just a name. It's no different than Klein Real Estate or ABC Real Estate. And I'm like, yeah, but it is. 'Cause
land's in there.
Land's in there. In my mind, at least in my mind, that's the way it felt, and it was defining the company. But that's one of the things of having a partner, and I don't now. It's just me, so I agree with myself over these things, but I don't have a partner to argue with over this. So
that's like a double-edged sword. I don't have a partner either, and it's there are days where you're like, gosh, I wish I had somebody to bounce this off of, and especially I think too, as you grow through the years, you mentioned mentors were a big part of your journey. Then you become the mentor later, right?
Yes.
But yet we still need people to bounce things off of. You need a mentor in a different way.
Well, and I mean, I mentioned this to you before we started the show. And my parents have always said this, I'm too good for my own good. I'm too nice, and I know it. And I, as a owner, as the boss, I could use a partner, someone that could balance my disposition, and someone that could bring let's say a harder edge, but a more defining role to some of the decisions that need to be made, because I tend to be the one who just goes along, gets along, and I'll just make it work, and I'll compromise to get to the next step, and just the outcome is more important than how we get there. And that's something I'm personally working on still, something that I know is a weakness of mine, and something that I know I need to improve on if I want to truly be business owner and have something that I can pass on that is beyond me. I have to get to that place, and I'm getting there. I have a great team right now, and I think I finally have, as my sisters always advised me, the A team, and I think I'm there with my associates and with my team. And so now it's a matter of defining and stepping back and saying, that's not my.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
I can, I think one of our greatest strengths is empathy. I struggle with the same problem, or not problem, challenge that you do. Reframe that. In that I feel sometimes I let, almost, I don't want to say too patient, but you let things go too long. And it's like I don't want to say too empathetic, but my empathy it cuts me both ways. I can be incredibly direct and incredibly empathetic both. And finding the right combination of switches is really difficult for me. I struggle with that. And I want to always believe in the people that I work with, that I work for, and then to have that it's a trust. It's a hard trust. Because it's like having kids. Your business is this thing that you love that's outside of you. It's running outside of you that you don't have control of some days.
It's a life balance challenge, Christina, with family, with business. My family says I don't make enough time there with my family, and I'm not patient with my family because I use too much of that up, and that energy is consumed with the business. And of course, I stress because I'm like, well, I have to provide for the family, so I'm going to focus on this first. And and they're not wrong, and that's something I'm personally working on, trying to be more deliberate about scheduling time with my family. God forbid I shut my phone off at 7:00 at night, and I got the shakes.
You are always available.
It's something that is just if I'm in the bathroom or I'm asleep, I'm not going to answer my phone. All right?
Okay, good. So I know that you're not texting me from the bathroom.
I'm not doing that. I've been on the other end of that call when you hear the flush. You're like, what in the world? But it just happened last week. I was like, come on, seriously? So I'm in the bathroom, I'm sleeping. I tell people I'm not answering my phone. But beyond that, I do pride myself in being accessible and available. And that's
part of your business too.
I know, but it's also, it leads to an abuse.
Yep.
And an expectation is set, and then it's like, if I go away, I'm never unplugging, I'm never away, and I know I need to do that. I know I need to unplug, recharge, and reset, and be away. We just took a trip recently. My wife and I celebrated our 20th anniversary. We went on a cruise, and there were periods of that trip, thank you, where we didn't have cell service. And she was like,
so how'd you cope with that?
Well, she was laughing. She's like, oh my God, you're going to have a nervous breakdown, aren't you? She's like, you don't have cell service. We're in this castle. And I'm like, oh, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just going to go outside and get some air, right? My phone up. But no, it was refreshing. It was like, all right, this is just God's way of saying, hey.
You got to unplug.
Unplug.
Yep.
Take a minute.
Yep.
Take 10.
It's interesting, too, sometimes the timing. Because
it's hard, though.
Oh, it's impossible. I am never not thinking about it, and that's just the way it's going to be. I've gotten better over the years about not being available all the time. I may be working, but you won't know it. So I'm classic for scheduling emails. Like everyone knows, if you get an 8 a.m. email from me, I wrote that last night. I schedule them out. And I'm really good about not pinging staff or anyone after hours, because I want them to have that separation and that boundary. The rule is if I'm reaching out to you after hours, it's an emergency.
Yeah.
So I've gotten better about that over time, but I'm never not thinking about it. But I think to your point that working on yourself, it's a constant. It is a constant, series of moments and things. Like with you go through cycles with your team, you go through cycles with the business, and it's tough, and I have noticed, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I have noticed the challenges in my personal life will mirror my professional life and vice versa. I will be fighting the battle on both fronts. And that's when I know it's like, oh, this is a me thing. This is definitely a me thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Everyone's going to be able to see this, right? So even like my 16-year-old daughter might be able to see this.
Yes, your 16-year-old daughter could see this on YouTube.
Yeah. She and I are going through finding that balance, and it's tough. And I want to be available to her, my son, my wife, my whole family, and but finding that balance, being available, being present, not being on my phone, having a conversation, and the text comes in and I get distracted, and I'm like, but I need to be paying attention here. I know those things, but it's something to work on.
It is something to work on. Everything in a business is something to work on. If you were to give your daughter advice at 16 for something like that, when she finds herself in a place like that, what advice would you give her?
That's a great question, and it's tough because I think about my kids and what they're dealing with that we didn't have to at their age in terms of the insta everything.
It's insane.
It is, and it's so different, and it's so difficult to understand the pressures that they're under in the world that they're living in society today. And so my advice is to them is this is noise, that you need to understand and recognize that this is all just noise. At the end of the day, no one controls your emotions other than yourself. No matter what anybody says, I am so blessed that I learned this in the 5th grade. Like, I learned at a really young age who controlled my emotions and how I reacted to what people threw at me, because I was the Catholic school uniformed kid that rode a public high school bus to school. So you can imagine the environment that I was in with, the goody two-shoes, St. John's grade school, Catholic boy on a public high school bus. And that was, I was thrown into that fire. So it was coming at me through a fire hose. But I learned, and that's something I hope my kids can learn from me and be able to control and not be overwhelmed by what society's thrown at them, and everything from all the social channels and all the instant everything. And it's just like, at the end of the day, it's number one, it's like,
it has the life of a
what was
fruit
the
fly.
issue? Yeah. It's gone.
It's gone.
Like, where was it? It was a crisis, and it was just gone. So there's that aspect of it. Nothing's really penetrating. Nothing's really, it's just surface. But it's also, it's a lot. It's a lot that kids are having to deal with. So, and then the other part of it is just, the trying to understand how to relate in a way. Like, relationships are just so difficult at their age with other kids, because everyone's got their head in the phone and everyone's communicating through phones, and
they're not communicating authentically with each other. I would not want to be that age again in this time period. I have so much empathy for everyone in those situations. It's just we dealt with our version,
right?
But we didn't deal with it empowered by tech to the max.
Right.
And now adding an AI into it, it's a whole new fun thing for
Holy
parenting.
mackerel. Like, and even as adults, like, trying to figure out what's real, what's not. And then I have at the other end of the spectrum, my mom, who's getting bombarded with AI stuff on her laptop, as she calls it, the iPad. And I'm like, Mom, it's not real. And she's like, but it is real. I got this. And I'm like, no, that's fake. It's not real. Well, look at it. And she's showing, I'm like, it's fake. But how does she know? How's she going to know? And I worry about that too. Like, it is crazy what
we're not keeping up with it at all.
Yeah, the lack of filtering or control or management of that.
Disclosure, the amount of disclosure. Yeah. I could care less. I care, but I could care less about the content if it was just disclosed. And, that is something as a company we've taken a stance on. When people ask us, well, of course, we adopt tech.
So I'm setting up part 2 of our podcast.
Of our podcast?
Yeah, AI and the whole data center conversation, because I think AI is more of the concern than the actual data center facilities themselves, and the debate over data center facilities. I think the core of that is really the anxiety and the stress, real, that people feel over AI and where we're going.
And it's a lot of unknown.
Yes.
And it feels very threatening. And when you feel threatened, what do? Right? We act out. You come from a place of fear. You're not coming from a place of curiosity anymore.
I don't know if you noticed, I just invited myself back.
I know.
I
saw you did. We're going to definitely do that.
Yeah, so there's part 2 of this.
Of that. We can do 2. I love that. Now, I could talk about that for hours. Yeah. But it just, for me, I think going back to relationships and authenticity and tying that and teasing, part 2, I think in the end, regardless of the tech and how advanced it gets, humans relate and crave connection with each other, and it's only going to make that more valuable.
Well, as it relates to my business, so we have all these cool tools As I tell my associates, at the end of the day, those tools enhance, accelerate, make us look better. But at the end of the day, the substance behind it is coming from us.
Yep. I tell everybody AI is great, but I still need creativity and context. And without that, AI is nothing.
And the authenticity of having a real person, having a real conversation. We're talking about transacting real estate, real.
Yep.
And if it's AI, it's not real.
It's not real. It's a tool. It's
Yes.
an assistant. It's great. We use it, full stop. But the creativity, the context, there's always somebody that is pulling those pieces together. There's a human there. There's a conversation that's happening.
And you know how much I love to argue and debate.
Mm-hmm.
I have gotten into some unbelievable debates with AI over stuff. It's crazy.
I cannot wait to get into this.
Like the ChatGPT is like convinced it's right about real estate stuff. I just had a client send me this report, and I'm like, this is garbage. Like the whole foundation of this is garbage, but it's convinced.
We had a client do the same thing, and they
right.
didn't even change the name of it. It still said Claude, and I was like, this isn't original.
Like, this is...
And also, by the way, half of this is wrong because the facts are wrong.
Right.
And so I'm not, I know a lot of people are concerned. Your world, my world, anyone in the service industry, of
Right.
any industry, is concerned, but we'll navigate that too, and we'll still be here.
There's no question that there are tools and there's efficiencies that, I can take a lease document, drop it in, and say, here, compare this to the original, tell me what the differences are. And
then, oh, by the way,
30 seconds later,
cite that so I know you're not hallucinating.
right? And that exercise would have taken me hours.
Yes.
And I can get that done in minutes.
Yes.
It's awesome. But
same here. I can take spreadsheets. I can do data compares.
Right.
We used to have to do that stuff by hand.
Right.
Awful. It was awful, drudgery, terrible, not fun work.
Right.
Now I can take that time and I can put it into more creativity, more problem solving, and more strategy, what people want.
Right.
Instead of, I'm really sorry, but half of your budget is just dealing with this trudge work that's necessary. I can't engineer it out of the process. Now it's still part of the process, but it's only this much of the process. That's the positive side to it, for sure.
Yes.
But we will come back and we will talk about all things AI. So
Look forward to it.
all right. Well, we'll see you next time.
I'm back here whenever you say the word.
All right. We'll
Thank
do
you.
part 2.
Thank you again, Christina.
Thank you. This episode is sponsored by Genesis AEC. Genesis AEC, where science meets the built environment. As an ENR number 5 ranked firm, we provide a single point of accountability for life sciences and advanced manufacturing. We integrate architecture, engineering, and construction with specialized CQV, asset management, and sustainability to deliver high-performance facilities nationwide. This episode is also sponsored by Steel Toe Communications. Steel Toe Communications builds marketing from the field up, using real projects, real crews, and real results. They help construction owners attract the right people, tighten up their messaging, and build long-term trust with marketing that reflects how their company actually operates, not something pulled from a template. And this episode is also sponsored by Illuminate. Illuminate empowers businesses with AI-driven marketing, revenue operations, and CRM implementation and training to drive sales growth and strengthen customer engagement. If your business is navigating the messy middle and you're ready to grow with purpose, with a partner that understands B2B business marketing and operations, visit illuminate.com to connect.